Greetings, my name is John Knox. Welcome to my presentation. From our Capstone 2 group, we decided to focus upon paternity leave, how to get men to utilize the program, how to create incentive for employers and owners to actually offer it. So the first question that we really considered is, what's the value of a happy, healthy employee? And studies have shown that it's priceless for employers and companies to have. A happy employee is a productive employee. So, parental leave, parental leave is paid time off for mothers and fathers to spend with their children. It provides great benefits to just about everybody involved, including the employer. Time off actually reduces employee turnover. They suffer less burnout. It increases employee loyalty and improves psychological health of the employees, which is good. Ironically or interestingly, a study by Zagorski in 2017 showed that only 10% of working fathers utilize or take paternity leave. There's various reasons for this. Some of it's a generational understanding or value, and other parts are more pragmatic. So Zagorski in his study, he found that many of the men worried about their job security, that if they left to do the paternity leave, they would risk losing their job. Other factors are actually within the workplace environment. There was a shaming culture that went on, that the men received from other men, that to take time off was emasculating or shirking one's duty, and so they were hesitant to actually even attempt to take the time off. There's a real pragmatic part of it as well, which is this: for men who take paternity leave compared to women with maternity leave, the men they saw a greater reduction of their household income than compared to the women. There's been other studies, other employment studies that show that men are much more likely to work overtime compared to women, because the women have higher priorities on family connections, etc. So the men knew from experience and from observation that if they take the time off of the paternity leave, they're really going to be hurting financially, and so that stopped them from using the programs. Also, occasionally, it was noted that sometimes men receive veiled threats and intimidation from their employers and managers not to take too much time off, regardless of whether it's a state or federal statute is, or the company policy. Yes, you could take the time off, but if you were a good employer, good employee, you would actually stay. And finally, for too many of the companies, the amount of time that the men receive for paternity leave was not worth even taking it off. Many places, they would have more time off just from paid vacation than paternity leave. Of course, smart companies and wise governments recognize the value of paternity leave, and so a lot of this is based on evidence that they've seen, that they've in studies, sociological studies, family studies that they've done. So O'Brien, in his study, noted that I think it was from 1994 to 2007, 66 nations across the world developed new laws and regulations regarding paternity leave to encourage men to actually spend some time away from work, to be with their wives, to be with the new babies. And Sweden, even in 1974, they initiated something called Daddy Days, where they're trying to encourage the fathers to spend time with the children. And again, all of this is a benefit to not just the employees, but also to the employers. The stress of new parenting, if anyone's had a kid, you just understand how tired you are and how fragile your emotions are, and not even withstanding like the postpartum blues that some women experience. It's just good for the husbands to be there for the wives, and actually to be there with the child too, just to make that connection. That's so healthy, not only for the dad but also for the child themselves. We had some potential recommendations to promote paternity leave, um, such as providing education for all employees about parental leave options, opportunities, funding, etc. I also we thought we could find some ways to generate stipends in order to augment the income, so it would help the men who knew they'd be losing more money to kind of provide a buffer zone, so it wouldn't be such of a turnoff for them to take paternity leave. And also, we thought it'd be good for companies to adjust the requirements to receive paternity leave. Now, we did notice older companies, especially General Motors, some of the other companies, perhaps they were, they've been in business for 100 years or 75 years, whatever it is. So they had a kind of an older mindset. Some of the newer companies, though, definitely were more progressive and less of this traditional man works all day, woman stays home, sort of like antediluvian mindset. And it's a different age, and a lot can be accomplished now through technological advancements. Probably one of the worst companies that we investigated was General Motors Company. And everybody who works at General Motors, at least as the workers outside administration, belongs to the United Auto Workers Union. And so I went and found the contract for the United Auto Workers Union with GM, and honestly, it was very difficult to work through. Very hard to find any information on maternity and paternity leave. I looked up their index, and it was not listed that way. I think it was actually almost 700 pages long. It was a very, very long, convoluted doctrine. But I finally went back to GM, and I went to their webpage, and I found out that GM offers 9 weeks of paid time. Oh, that's wonderful for women for maternity leave. However, for men, it only offered 2 weeks paid time. They had to they had to have worked there for over a year or at least 1,250 hours to qualify. Some good examples, and actually this is funny because, like I said, some of these older companies, they seem to kind of be stuck in the 1950s when it comes to their understanding of parental needs. These other companies are more millennial companies, at least they're recent creations. And so, like Spotify offers 6 months of paid parental leave for men and with women. Change.org, which actually is a global company with over 200 employees, offers 18 weeks of paid parental leave. Etsy, 26 weeks of paid parental leave. Microsoft had 20 weeks of paid parental leave. And Facebook had 4 months of paid parental leave. So you get to see all these are pretty young companies, though, too, and pretty technologically advanced. And again, I think, millennials see more avenues, perhaps, and more options than older generations, especially boomers. Twitter offered 20 weeks paid parental leave as well. For all these companies, they also allowed time for adopted parents to spend time with the new baby. So if a couple adopted a newborn baby, even if the woman did not go through labor to have the child, they still gave time for the new parents to spend time with the new baby, which is very sweet. Surrogates, they also gave time for surrogates to have some time off as well, or spend time with that. And I do also believe they allowed for same-sex couples also to have time off as well. So what are some ways that we could facilitate paternity leave? How can we help encourage employers to encourage the employees, especially the men, to take advantage of these wonderful programs? So first and foremost, we thought it was important that all employees, when they're hired, have some HR training period where they're fully briefed on paternity leave options and benefits. Don't just gloss over it. Spend time so they can see what they could do. And a lot of times new employees are young people, so it's going to be definitely something in their near future. Also, to provide opportunities for the employees themselves to create or to contribute to a health savings account or medical savings account, so they could set aside funds, especially for the men, so they wouldn't have to worry again about, uh, you know, having a greater deficit than they could afford. Also, the company, if they really wanted to um, help their employees, could match these funds that are put into these different accounts. So if an employee puts in $20, the employer matches it, and that definitely shows that the company cares about the employees, um, health and welfare, and that's definitely not unappreciated by employees. As I mentioned earlier, there's great technological advances today, so um, some companies could help develop work from home programs so that um, employers don't have to be cut off from their talented skilled workers. Um, Now, of course, some businesses this would not work. I mean, to be a you're not an auto worker, there's no way you can do that. But other companies definitely have greater options and opportunities within the technological advancements and the speed of the internet and computers and um, uh, video conferencing, etc. And finally, they could continue to work with unions, which this is probably a less productive um, suggestion considering the deliberations that go on with unions and companies. But the unions could work with the management to negotiate for better um, you know benefits and reduce time um, to work before you get eligible for the programs. So finally, in conclusion, paid parental leave helps the employee and the employer alike. It's a win-win for both. When companies invest in the employee lives, the employees are inspired, and their support and commitment to the company increases. It's also, every company is investing in their workers with training, and so it does not help them to fire or let go someone who they've been working with for 2, 3 years, 4 or 5 years, because they're need some time off to be with their newborn. Um, and again, committed, happy employees are productive employees, and so that definitely it behooves employers to kind of encourage men, especially, to take advantage of these programs. Um, Even more than just the financial end of it too, and the productivity of the manufacturing for these companies. There's an overall health benefit too for people to take time off. Happy employees, mentally peace employees. They live longer lifespans, and then in this lifespan, they become more efficient at their work for the companies, and so they can continue on there. I mean, just to stop and have to retrain you know, person after person does not help a company. Having an employee there for multiple years who knows how to do the work and does it well, that helps them. And even more than just the lifespan, I mean, it protects the whole health of the whole family, including the children. Um, Children, babies especially, need contact and connection, and they need connection with moms and dads. So paternity leave is definitely a benefit for all people involved. So the value of a happy, healthy employee is priceless, and this is why smart, wise, uh, companies offer and promote paternity programs for their employees. Thank you very much.